What if one of the most wholesome shows ever made actually hides some of the most unexpected real-life stories in Hollywood? Parks and Recreation gave us laughter, comfort, and characters that felt like family. But behind that warmth, the real lives of the cast went in completely different directions. Some became global stars, some quietly disappeared, and some faced controversies that changed everything. Before we begin, who was your favorite character in Parks and Recreation? And which actor do you think changed the most? Stay with me, because the real stories behind these familiar faces are far more surprising than you might expect. Premiering in 2009, Parks and Recreation started small, almost quietly. But over time, it grew into one of the most beloved sitcoms of its generation. Set in the fictional town of Pawnee, Indiana, the show turned everyday government work into something unforgettable. It wasn't just about comedy, it was about connection. Leslie's endless optimism, Ron's quiet wisdom, April's dry sarcasm, Andy's childlike innocence. Each character felt real in their own way, and that's exactly why fans still return to it today. But while the show itself remained warm, consistent, and full of heart, real life for the cast was often far more unpredictable than anyone could have imagined. Retta's journey into Hollywood didn't start with fame. It started on small stages, under dim lights, doing stand-up comedy for whoever would listen. Night after night, she built her confidence, her timing, and her voice. Success didn't come quickly, but it came steadily. When Parks and Recreation arrived, everything changed. As Donna Meagle, she brought confidence, humor, and unforgettable energy to every scene. But unlike many Hollywood stories, her life after the show didn't spiral into chaos or controversy. Instead, it followed the same steady path she had always known. She continued working consistently, most notably finding success again in Good Girls.
No scandals, no headlines, no dramatic reinventions. Just a career built on reliability and talent. In an industry where so many stories are filled with ups and downs, Retta represents something rare: stability. A quiet, consistent success that never needed drama to stand out. Jim O'Heir's path to fame was anything but typical. For years, he worked quietly in Hollywood, taking small roles, waiting for a moment that seemed like it might never come. He didn't fit the traditional image of a leading man, and because of that, opportunities were limited. Then came Parks and Recreation, and with it, a character who was constantly overlooked, mocked, and underestimated. Jerry, or Gary, or Larry. But what could have been a forgettable role became something much more. Jim brought warmth, kindness, and humanity to a character who was always the joke. And audiences noticed. While the character was teased on screen, the actor behind him became deeply loved. His late success proved something important: that sometimes recognition comes later, but it can still mean just as much. Off-screen, his life has remained simple and grounded. No major controversies, no dramatic headlines, just a steady career and a genuine connection with fans. And maybe that's why his story feels so real, because it's not about fame. It's about finally being seen. Adam Scott's career is a story of persistence. Long before he became Ben Wyatt, he spent years moving through small roles, building experience, but never quite reaching that breakthrough moment. There were times when it felt like the industry simply wasn't opening the door for him. In fact, there was a point when he almost walked away entirely. The constant uncertainty, the near misses, it all added up. But just when things seemed to stall, Parks and Recreation changed everything. As Ben Wyatt, He brought a quiet charm that perfectly balanced the energy of the show. He wasn't loud, but he was essential. And from that moment, his career began to shift. Years later, he would prove his range again, with Aubrey Plaza was never like anyone else in Hollywood. And that's exactly why people couldn't look away. Her personality felt different, almost unpredictable, blurring the line between who she was on screen and who she really was. As April Ludgate, that strange, quiet energy became iconic. It didn't feel acted, it felt real. But behind that unique presence was a story far more serious than most fans realized. At just 20 years old, Aubrey suffered a stroke that temporarily paralyzed her and affected her speech. It was a moment that could have ended everything before it even began. Instead, she recovered and carried that experience with her into her work, giving her performances an intensity that felt impossible to fake. After Parks and Recreation, she didn't chase mainstream fame. Instead, she moved into independent films, darker, more unusual roles that matched her personality. Over time, she became a cult figure. Not the biggest star, but one of the most interesting. And maybe that's what makes her journey stand out. She didn't change to fit Hollywood. She made Hollywood adjust to her. Nick Offerman didn't just play Ron Swanson, he embodied him. The calm voice, the love of craftsmanship, the no-nonsense philosophy. It all felt so natural because much of it came from his real life. Long before fame, Nick was already passionate about woodworking, building furniture with his own hands, and valuing a slower, more grounded way of living. When Parks and Recreation made him famous, he didn't abandon that lifestyle. Instead, he leaned into it. Writing books, continuing his craft, and sharing that same philosophy with the world. While many actors struggle with the pressure of fame, Nick seemed to move around it, choosing authenticity over attention. His personal life reflects that same stability. His marriage to Megan Mullally has become one of the most admired in Hollywood, built on humor, respect, and genuine connection. No scandals, no chaos, just consistency. In an industry known for extremes, Nick Offerman's story feels almost unexpected. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. Rashida Jones grew up surrounded by fame, but she never let it define her. As the daughter of legendary producer Quincy Jones, she had access to a world many people only dream of. But instead of relying on that legacy, she quietly built her own path. As Ann Perkins, she became the emotional anchor of Parks and Recreation. Surrounded by big personalities, she brought balance, warmth, and relatability. But after the show ended, she didn't follow the usual route of chasing bigger on-screen roles. Instead, she stepped behind the scenes, writing, producing, and shaping stories from a different perspective. It wasn't a loud transformation. There were no dramatic headlines, just a steady shift into a more creative, controlled space. Her personal life has remained just as private. In a world where everything is shared, she chose to keep certain things to herself. And in doing so, she created a career defined by intention rather than attention. Rashida Jones may not have the most dramatic story, but her journey shows something just as powerful. Sometimes, success isn't about being seen more. It's about choosing where you truly belong. So far, the cast has taken very different paths. Some stayed steady, some reinvented themselves, and some changed in ways no one expected. But what about you? Which story surprised you the most? And who do you think has had the most dramatic journey so far? Let me know, because what's coming next gets even more intense. Amy Poehler was already a powerhouse in comedy before Parks and Recreation ever began. From her unforgettable years on Saturday Night Live, she had proven she could command attention,
deliver sharp humor, and lead with confidence. But Leslie Knope became something more than just another role. She became the heart of the show. Her performance wasn't just funny, it was inspiring. Leslie's optimism, her relentless belief in people, her ability to keep going no matter what, it all felt real. And that's because Amy brought so much of herself into the character. But behind that bright, energetic presence, her personal life wasn't always as perfect as it seemed. During the height of her success, she went through a very public divorce from actor Will Arnett. It was a moment that caught many fans off guard. Balancing that emotional shift while continuing to lead a major show, raise children, and expand her career wasn't easy. Yet she did exactly that. Moving into directing, producing, and continuing to shape comedy in new ways, she proved that her influence went far beyond acting. Amy Poehler's story isn't just about success. It's about resilience. About continuing forward even when life behind the scenes becomes complicated. And maybe that's what makes her journey so powerful. Because the positivity we saw on screen didn't come from perfection. It came from strength. Aziz Ansari's rise felt fast, sharp, and unstoppable. Starting as a stand-up comedian, he quickly became one of the most recognizable voices of his generation. His humor was modern, observant, and deeply connected to real life. As Tom Haverford, he brought a unique energy that made the character instantly memorable. But his ambitions went far beyond acting. With Master of None, Aziz created something deeply personal. A series that blended comedy with real-life experiences in a way that resonated with audiences around the world. The success was huge. Awards, recognition, critical praise. It seemed like he had reached the top. And then suddenly, everything paused. A controversy emerged that quickly spread across media and social platforms. The reaction was immediate. Public opinion split. Some supported him, others turned away. But the impact on his career was undeniable. Projects slowed down. Appearances became rare. And for a time, Aziz stepped back from the spotlight entirely. Years later, he began returning, quietly, through stand-up comedy. No dramatic comeback, no major announcements. Just a gradual re-entry into the world he once dominated. His story remains one of the most complex among the cast. A mix of success, controversy, and uncertainty. And maybe that's why it feels so real. Because not every story has a clear ending. Chris Pratt's journey feels almost unreal, like something written for a movie script. Before fame, he was struggling just to get by, even living in a van at one point, taking whatever work he could find. Hollywood felt far away, almost impossible. Then came Parks and Recreation. As Andy Dwyer, he brought a kind of humor that felt effortless, goofy, lovable, and completely genuine. Audiences connected with him instantly. But what happened next changed everything. In one of the most dramatic transformations in Hollywood, Chris reinvented himself physically and professionally. The laid-back comedic actor became a leading action star. His role as Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy didn't just elevate his career, it redefined it. Suddenly, he was at the center of major franchises, global attention, and enormous success. But with that success came pressure. His personal life became public, especially his high-profile divorce from Anna Faris. Fans began to see a different side of him. Criticism grew. Every decision, every statement was analyzed. And yet, through all of it, Chris Pratt continued forward. building a new identity as one of Hollywood's biggest leading men. Taking on blockbuster roles, redefining his image, and proving that reinvention is possible, even on the biggest stage. His story is one of extremes, from struggle to success, from anonymity to global fame. And maybe that's what makes it so compelling, because it shows just how much a life can change in ways no one could ever predict. Rob Lowe's story stands as the most dramatic transformation among the entire cast. A rise, a fall, and a comeback that feels almost impossible. In the 1980s, he was the definition of a Hollywood heartthrob. Young, charismatic, and everywhere. As part of the iconic Brat Pack, he had everything: fame, attention, and a career that seemed destined to last forever. It felt like nothing could go wrong. But then, everything did. A major scandal erupted that quickly became one of the most talked about controversies of its time. The backlash was immediate and unforgiving. His reputation took a massive hit, and almost overnight, his career began to collapse. Opportunities disappeared. The industry that once embraced him suddenly turned away. Behind the scenes, the situation was even more difficult. Rob Lowe struggled with addiction, facing personal battles that went far beyond the headlines. It wasn't just about losing fame, it was about losing control. For many, that would have been the end, but for him, it became the turning point. Instead of fading away, he made the difficult choice to rebuild. Step by step, he focused on recovery, discipline, and changing his life completely. There were no shortcuts, no instant comeback, just years of effort and determination to become someone new. And slowly, it worked. He returned to Hollywood, not as the same reckless young star, but as someone transformed. His role as Chris Traeger introduced him to a new generation, this time as a symbol of positivity, health, and control. It was more than a comeback. It was a reinvention. Rob Lowe didn't just recover from his past, he used it to build something stronger. And that's why his story stands out above all the others. Not because he avoided failure, but because he faced it, survived it, and came back better than anyone expected. Years have passed, but somehow, Pawnee still feels exactly the same. The jokes, the friendships, the small moments that meant everything. They never really faded. And maybe that's because Parks and Recreation was never just a comedy. It was hope. A reminder that kindness still matters, that friendship, loyalty, and optimism can exist, even in the most ordinary places. But while the show stayed frozen in that perfect version of time, the people behind it kept moving forward. Some reached incredible success. Some faced challenges that changed their lives. Others quietly stepped away and found something different. Each story took its own path, far beyond Pawnee. And yet, no matter how much time passes, the show remains untouched. A place we can always return to. A reminder of a simpler, happier time that still feels just as real today. If this brought back memories, take a moment to like the video. Share your favorite character in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more Then and Now stories. Because sometimes, the past still has a few secrets left to tell.